We are Cactus Wrestling. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.
Cactus Wrestling is now available on Spotify and Amazon. And don't forget to check us out on Etsy for all of your Cactus Wrestling apparel needs. Welcome back to Cactus Wrestling. Mike, he might have the norovirus. He might not. I don't know.
Not me,
But he's
Mike.
sick. The other Mike.
The other Mike. Some of you guys would be like, oh, he's right there.
Yeah. Well,
Other,
I mean, there's nothing stopping you from having the norovirus.
I could. I mean, most of my these last few weeks, like my high school team and my youth team, guys have been like in and out like crazy. Kids.
Everyone's sick right now.
Yeah,
Everyone's
it's just
sick.
that time of year in New England.
Knock on wood. Well,
Hmm.
no, I mean, I'm in New York.
Yeah, it's just greater New England area.
You're looping. All right, I can't
I'm a
even
New
do
Yorker. I can say no.
it. Anyway,
Grandfathered
take
in.
care of yourselves out there, folks. So another week of and sorry, the reason we've been a little bit slow. We're battling some illnesses. We're trying to get caught up to speed, as
Yeah.
we're continuing on with the NCAA wrestling season. So pardon our delay on the videos. We're not stopping. It's just been hectic the past week. So let's dive into some content here. Let's start off with Oklahoma State versus NC State. On paper, you might think that this would be, a pretty good
Close.
matchup. And
Yeah.
then Oklahoma State nearly shuts them out.
You know, I feel two very different ways about this. On one hand, I'm like, man, Oklahoma State smoked them. But then I look at some of the box score breakdowns, and you're like, okay, that's a close match. That's a close match. That's a close match. It just seems like Oklahoma got the flips to go in their way. I mean, this could very well could have been, you know, and we'll go through the whole thing, but there's reason to believe that one, two, three, four, maybe four matches go in favor of NC State, which is almost half. I mean, I think this could have been a lot closer. Um, and some guys I think underperformed given for Oklahoma State even underperformed. Like, I think this could have even been a wider score margin.
Well, so let's dive into it. Mike, my brother Mike, he would be very pleased to report that Vincent Robinson beats Troy Spratley. That was their
Oh
one
yeah.
win. Started out
Yep.
strong. And Vincent
What
Robinson,
a
by the way, still undefeated. I know he
undefeated.
technically has a med forfeit loss,
Yeah.
um, but he hasn't lost a match this
Just
season.
incredible year for him. What a run he's been on. Um, I feel like he's still not getting maybe the full respect he deserves. I don't know, like I like Luke Little a lot. And I feel like at least the guys that I talk to, maybe because they're more Penn State fans, like, oh, this kid's the real deal. He's a beast. And then you look at someone like Vince Robinson, who's beating top level guys time in and time out, and they're like, okay, yeah, but he's at NC State. Like, I don't know
So what
if
does
that's
that mean?
well, I just think like a lot of guys aren't giving him the full credit because he's not at like the premier, the number one team. Um, I just feel like I
Yeah, but
hear
the
less.
rankings always love NC State, though.
Yeah, but would you say based on what he's done so far, Vincent Robinson should be 11? And I think Lillard's 12 in the same rankings.
I think, well, you look at the names. I mean, Vincent Robinson's beaten Dean Peterson. He beat Max Gallagher, Sheldon Seymour, Diego Sotelo. Besides Spratley, those were his major wins.
Peterson's pretty good.
And I think Lilladell's major wins, I think he also beat
Sheldon Seymour.
Sheldon Seymour.
Yeah.
I think that's really it in terms of ranked wins for Lilladell. I'm looking.
I mean, you can't fault Lillard's beat Farmer from West Point as well. And you can't fault him. I mean, he's beating the guys ahead of him. So it's not it. But I think Robinson is definitely better than he's ranked. And seeing him with his match against Spratley, who has been wrestling really great, I would say Robinson is definitely someone that should have his name in the hat for a title run.
Interesting, really.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
guess. I mean, Spratley was ranked as high as number two he beat
Yeah,
him pretty handily,
pretty,
7 to
pretty,
3.
pretty solidly. Um, I think this is, we kind of talked about this in previous videos, who's going to be an All-American for NC State this year? And we said there's a possibility
Yes.
that no one does. But
Yeah, I still stand by that. I mean, I do think Trumbull
I
will.
think Robinson has a good chance to be on the podium,
Well,
especially,
yeah, but that was before we even knew.
yeah, yeah,
That's
no,
when
but
we
I'm
thought
saying
Camacho
now.
was in the mix.
Yeah.
But now if Robinson is, yeah, I think he has the potential to be in there. I think Trumbull's probably still their most solid because 25 is tends to be more tumultuous.
Yeah.
Heavyweight, you don't really see as many major upsets as 25.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's nice that they went from maybe one to maybe two, doubling those NCAAs, All-American potential right there.
Well, it's still baffling to me that I mean, I'm on Oklahoma State's website. Number It says Cowboys crush number 5 NC State. Who has NC State ranked number 5?
I'm not sure.
They have one guy in no, two guys in the top 10 ranked.
I think a
That's
lot
it.
of it comes from just like one, two, and three are so strong. Penn
Yeah, and
State.
everyone else just follows
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And so like I think there's even though they're only two spots away separation, I think that it's a very large gap between three and five.
I don't think NC State cracks top 10 at NCAA's this year.
I would agree with that. I feel like every year they get pretty favorable rankings and they just seem to struggle after the ACCs.
Yeah. So 33, Cale Hughes gets the nod. He's still eligible to redshirt, but he
Mhm.
pins Kairini, who
Yeah.
was at 141, now back down at 33. He probably said to himself, I can't hang with the big boys at 41, so I'm going to go back down to 33. And guess what? The stud freshman pins him.
I mean, we talked about Cale Hughes when we've seen him in freestyle that he has this all this potential. Um, him missing weight for either his U20s, I think. Do you remember that when he missed weight at U20 World Team
Yeah,
Trials?
yeah,
And we're like,
yeah.
oh, like, I wonder how it's gonna go. This could have been a really interesting match to see how he looks with. I think he was supposed to wrestle Marcus Blaze actually,
Mm,
and I was like, this could be a really interesting matchup to see how Hughes really does stack up. We had to just wait a little longer, but we're seeing, he's pretty as advertised.
yeah. And, you know, and we won't go through every one of them, but I'm just looking here. Caleb Fish, number 14, beats
Squeaks it
Ed
out.
Scott 12 to 5. Now, I know that looks like a big margin, but
It was tied.
it was close, right? Like a
It was
7 point
5-5.
move
Yeah, it
in the
was like
last
5-5. I think
few
he hit a
seconds.
7 point move, feet to back.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's
yeah.
but that's what I mean. Like Caleb, Carter Young, 5-2 win, takedown separated the match. Caleb Fish, Ed Scott, takedown into a backs separated the match. Um, Cam Amin versus Derek Fields, 5-2, takedown separates the match. There was a reasonable, it's not unreasonable to come into this and say Kai wins. Uh, I can't remember it's like Busingenis.
Weezkins,
Yeah,
Koi
yeah,
Buizkins.
yeah. I always forget how to pronounce. So, not unreasonable to believe that he wins Ed Scott and Fields. Like that's four matches that could have gone their way. That would have really not necessarily changed the end result of the duel, but it would have made it look a lot more competitive on paper. But they won the swing matches. I was
Hmm.
surprised Cam Amin was in such a tight match with Fields.
You
Just
are?
because
He always has tight matches.
yeah, but I feel like he was kind of getting back to like who he was not last season, but 2 seasons ago. Um,
I feel
but
like Cam Amin's never been a bonus guy.
no, not really. I gotta
But
say,
I mean, he is a 3-time All-American.
yeah, hey, just win, baby. What surprised me the most was Hamity against Singleton being not even a major.
Yeah, 8 to 4, and to that point, Dustin Plott over Dylan
Yeah,
Fishback 5 to 0. Which I
no,
mean, you can't really be upset about a shutout, but yeah, I mean, decision wins.
yeah.
Especially people are saying Hamity could probably beat Levi Haynes. I don't know if I'm there yet. I still think I'm putting Keegan on a pedestal a little bit, but
Well,
I
Key
mean,
might
I
be
know
out.
Matty Singleton's a solid guy. He's ranked 19th, but
And same thing I was gonna say too with Wyatt Hendrickson. 10-4 win over Isaac Trumbull, who
yeah, but that's pretty
we said
commanding.
he's
I
a
feel
good
like
wrestler, but Hendrickson, look at what he's done at the NCAAs. I mean, this is the guy that he scores points constantly. He's a big pinner, big point scorer. I thought that it was a very close Carter and Wyatt and Gable's above them, but I thought like that 2-3 was a very top two, and then there was separation to four. It seems like it's a lot closer than I realized. Um, at least for this week. We've
I don't
always
know. I think Trumbull's right there. I think that I mean, you remember Trumbull was given Kyle Snyder
for
fits
sure.
in the freestyle. He's got very stingy defense. I don't know if he's big enough to
That's what I
fill
was saying.
out.
Kyle is a lot smaller than Wyatt, as we know.
Right, right. So I don't know how Trumbull would stack up against the likes of Wyatt, Greg, or Gable even. So I guess it remains to be seen. But I still think 10-4 is a pretty dominant win against the number 4 guy.
I mean, I don't know. I think
You
that
can't pin everyone.
well, you could put up more points than that.
I mean, he still put up 10 points.
Mm.
Come on.
Come on. Like I said, not, but I think that on the same hand, I said like, wow, Oklahoma State blew him out of the water. In some ways, the team that we've been seeing underperformed for the Oklahoma State of this year. Like I thought Caleb Fish would have won by a little bit more, Cam Amin by a lot more, Hamity by a lot more, Plot by more. Um, I think that this team is really trending in the right direction though. I think it gets closer and closer to say like, hey, like, is this the number two team?
You think so?
I would expect to find out on like February 23rd, I think it is.
A month and a week when we see Oklahoma State versus Iowa.
Oh yeah,
Could be good.
could be.
Um, and by the way, got to give a shout out to our boy Stetson Starkey. We're gonna have chapter markers on these videos, so if
Yes.
because we jump around topics a lot, recaps and everything like that. So if you just want to kind of scroll ahead and see, because this next topic is somewhat, could potentially be somewhat controversial. It's always controversial with Ferrari talk. Vroom
Oh boy, man.
vroom. What
What an interesting family. Like, just what an interest. I can't, like, it's like a car crash. I just can't get enough of these guys.
I was wondering, I was looking him up a while ago. I was like, this guy can't be done. Like, there's no way he's gonna let his ego aside and just be done.
He was
And
like,
lo and behold, I mean, I'll put the headliner for people who don't know.
yeah,
Anthony Ferrari will compete for Long Island University this season, and yes, LIU is Division One team.
yep.
In case you didn't know that.
Um, Formerly, I mean, like, we have been following LIU a little bit just because they're close to kind of where we are. Because they used to not be Division One like 3 seasons ago.
Yeah, and their coach is like, I think the youngest
He is
Division
the
One.
youngest, yeah, youngest coach in NCAA's.
Yeah.
Um, it's so crazy how this Ferrari family has ended up. I mean, I think Anthony was like the number 12 guy in like the class of 21 or 2022, one of those classes. And, you see me like, wow, like going to Iowa. And even that, when he went to Iowa, was like weird, where he put out a thing where he's like, I've committed to Iowa. And everyone's like, we weren't pursuing you, but okay. Like, I don't know if you remember that Spencer Lee interview.
Potentially.
Spencer's like somewhere talking, and they're like, oh, like, tell us about Angelo. Because you guys are trying to get him. And he goes, yeah. So like, we're looking for Angelo. And funny enough, like Anthony just like, shows up one day. He's like, oh, I'm here now. And we're like,
Mm.
what? And, you know, Oklahoma State, he was at originally, goes to Iowa, now to LIU. Um, he has a checkered past. I'm not going to put the whole thing out there. Guys can look it up. Um, some of it is just, it's not proven. It's just been like what people hear, hearsay. But it's interesting that national champion AJ is at CSU Bakersfield and top 10 at a high school. Um, Anthony is at LIU. I just think
And
that
Angelo's at
is
Iowa.
Iowa. But it makes you wonder, like, you know, what does his future look like? He seems to be doing everything right, but what's I would have never anticipated AJ to leave Oklahoma State until that crazy stuff happened. Um, Anthony seemed like to be in a good spot with Iowa. He's like the Iowa type of wrestler, physical, aggressive, like looking to score points. Seemed like a match made in heaven. Um, it
Now,
There you go.
yeah, go ahead. No, finish it
I
up.
was gonna say it's just I think it's so important for young wrestlers out there to just keep in mind like how important like character is in the sport.
And you're saying the Anthony Ferrari doesn't have character? I'm
I think
joking.
that yeah, I mean there's a joke in there, but like I think that there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from the Ferrari family. Good, bad, or ugly. I think a lot of people could watch it and say like, here's things, in my own career I could do differently or ways that I'd want to coach someone or be coached. Um, because my gosh, like all the talent in the world in that family, to have three brothers that are all top college wrestlers, potentially one of them already being a national champion, and yet not many people talk about them for the wrestling accolades. It's everything else.
So, for those of you who are like, oh, why even covering this guy, Anthony Ferrari, blah blah blah. Well, Anthony Ferrari was 9-1 last year, or sorry, 8-1 last year. His only loss came to Caleb Rache,
At the
his
soldier salute,
I guess teammate. Where was he even on Iowa? I don't even
it
know.
was such a weird thing because like he was at the soldier salute, but he was like wearing I think he was wearing DeSant. I want to say he was wearing like Pat Lugo's singlet or somebody like that. Like he wasn't even. It was a
Yeah.
freestyle singlet for someone else on Iowa, and he Rachi beat him and then did like the Ferrari flex. Where he like walked over and was like, "Yeah." I just remember the match because it was right after that. I think AJ had just gotten into the fight in his
Uh,
own match.
yeah.
But the guy can scrap, and
Yeah, I
you
was gonna
know,
say he beat Alec Martin of South Dakota State, who's a
yeah,
national qualifier. He
and
beat Victor Voinovich as
yeah.
well at 149. So he's national qualifier caliber. I don't know
Well,
if
that's what I
he'll.
was gonna say. Is like he can definitely qualify through LIU's schedule. I mean, this is
Well,
like no,
do you think he has a good chance at winning the EIWA?
it really depends what weight he goes, especially now that like the pro- the like the Ivy Leagues are out of the EIWAs.
Well, yes, that's true.
So
Assuming
that'll
he's at
help.
149. I mean, I'm looking at the rankings right now. Lehigh's the best team in the EIW. I mean, you have Malik Hines as the number one guy, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, I mean, the EIWA is going to be a former shell of itself because
Mhm.
there's going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
so fewer allocations. So it's going to be really important to win that tournament. And I'm looking at 157. The top ranked guy EIWA is Luke Nichter of Drexel.
Yeah.
At number 21, Logan Royzinski of Lehigh at 30. So
I
it
mean,
seems like it's I
it's
mean,
not an impossibility for
yeah,
sure.
I
I
mean,
mean,
like, it's
there's
there for the taking.
there is a real scenario where we see three Ferrari brothers competing at nationals this year for three different programs.
Not Angelo.
I'm not going to hold my breath on it. I think that the fact that
Come
they
on.
didn't wrestle Angelo in the Soldier Salute against Gabe Arnold means that they are protecting something. I mean, the Iowa lineup we're seeing is already making changes, especially if Oklahoma State is right there. Iowa doesn't want to slip even further to third. I mean, I don't think I don't see any possibility where anybody beats Penn State this year. And they're probably going to want to wait for guys like Carter, Plot, Kekheisen to graduate from 84 before they put out Ferrari. But I think there's a real scenario where all three brothers could be wrestling at NCAAs this season.
Drop a comment down below if you think all three Ferrari brothers. I don't think Angelo will. I think the other two will be, but I don't think I think Angelo's redshirting. By the
So
way, not to be off topic, but did you see that video with David Taylor where the guy was asking him? He's like, um, he was basically trying to get to the point of, do you think that Penn State's dominance
It's
is
bad for the
bad for
sport.
the sport, but he
I
flubbed the question. He was
yeah.
I think he was nervous. I think he was like a little nervous to ask him. And then David Taylor was just like, "Are you asking me that I wouldn't want to dominate my opponents? Of course I want to dominate my opponents. That's why we get into the sport." I'm like, that's not what he was asking, David Taylor, but
Cut straight from the
that's
school
what all the comments
standards.
are saying. They're like, "Yeah, that's
Mhm.
exactly Kale."
That was like Flow Wrestling asked Kale like a while ago. They're like, "Hey, like, do you have a plan? Like, what's the plan for so and so for redshirt?" And Kale's like, "Oh, do you have a plan? Like, do you know something that I don't?"
Right, right.
Like, they have too much fun. Before we move on to the next topic, let's say Anthony makes nationals. How does he do? Do you see him as a potential podium guy, or do you see him, round of 16, round of 12,
No, I see him as like winning maybe
one
one
and two?
match. Yeah. I don't think he'll, especially being at LI.
Like, yeah. Do you think he's
I
so
mean, no
that's
disrespect to
yeah?
John Arceri, who's the head coach, but I don't think
Do
the
you think
guy from Nassau Community College, and no disrespect, but I just don't think that he's gonna
it's going to be tough to coach a
progress
guy like
under
that?
him
Yeah,
in that
no, for
room
sure.
with, yeah.
It's for sure. I mean, it's it's the facts of it. Great coach, but you have a guy that's like unruly. You're a young coach with a program that you're trying to build, and you have a guy coming in that is going to be not very easy to work with. He's not. He's thinks he knows it all. Um,
That's got to be your worst nightmare, especially as a
yeah,
young coach, of
yeah.
like, how do I deal with this situation? Because
But as a young coach, guys, people are going to be talking about LIU. I mean, look, we're doing it right now.
yeah, I guess so.
Do you think he stays there?
Who knows with this family?
That's what I said. Like,
They
I
bounce
expect
around.
like LIU this year, somewhere else next year. Maybe ends up at CSU Bakersfield for all I
Yeah,
know.
all three of them are going to be at Bakersfield by the end of
Yep.
this, and
They
then
did an interview.
they're going to be a top 20 program.
That's it. Craziness.
Wow. All right. Well, let us know your thoughts about
Yeah, on the
Ferrari
Ferrari
madness.
family.
Getting into some other upsets from the past week. So we saw some other duels. I was surprised that Nebraska beat. They rebounded nicely and they beat Minnesota. I thought Minnesota was.
Yeah, you did talk about, Minnesota's like a tough dual program.
Yeah, I said they had the best shot at
Upending pet
winning
up.
the
Yeah,
most matches against Penn State, and Nebraska beat them pretty good. And check out our Nebraska versus Penn State preview, separate
yeah.
video. I guess we'll have to get that out very soon. We might have to drop two videos in the same day, but
Ooh,
ooh. Um,
better.
yeah, I mean Nebraska beats Minnesota. Pulling up the results there. Caleb Smith beats Cooper Flynn.
Caleb Smith doing well. 125 is going to get crazier now that Volk is injured.
Well,
Um,
oh, maybe we should give a quick injury update because there have been some serious end of season injuries
oh yeah,
recently. I
yes.
mean, we talked about Joey Volk. Keegan O'Toole is not out for the season,
We don't
but
know that for
he's
sure. They're
out.
hopeful.
Yeah, they're hopeful, but Rocky Elam is
Is
he's
that
out for
yeah?
the season, and latest and
Stanich.
greatest, um, Ryan Crookham.
That was it. Yeah, I said Stanich. Crookham, they are optimistic he'll make it back for postseason.
That's what they said, really?
I think they're optimistic. I don't think they're gonna necessarily going to happen. I think they're hopeful for it, but
Hmm.
you know, there's rumors that he broke his arm. There's rumors he broke his elbow. There's people saying it's just a sprain. Um, I don't know the full story, and I'm not going to try and guess. But for now, he's injured, and they are hopeful he can make it back for the postseason, which really shakes up the 133 rankings and makes it even more likely that Braden Davis is going to win.
Okay. I don't know about that.
Hey,
Well,
his only loss was to the was to Crookham.
we'll see how he does against Jake Van D this weekend.
It's Davis's year, baby.
Yeah, we'll see. So going back to Nebraska versus Minnesota, just to kind of run down some upsets. So, well, not an upset, but Antrell Teller beats Tommy Askey in overtime. Lenny Pinto beats Cam Whiting. Oh, Christopher Minto at 165 beats Andrew Sparks
Mm.
5-4. Sparks number 9. This one I was surprised by. Max McAnally beats Silas Allred 16-6.
I mean, I talked about McAnally a bit
No,
with
I
you.
know he was good, but I
Yeah.
major Silas Allred, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that watching McAnally in freestyle, I was like, dude's a goer. Um, Obviously Silas Allred, very tough competitor. And sometimes me especially I put too much stock in freestyle performances. But
You
I
love
probably
it.
wouldn't. What's up?
You love it.
I do love free. I mean, I prefer folk style, but I like getting to watch Team USA in the off season. Um, but I would not have expected a major. I'll go with that. I thought it could be a competitive match. I didn't think a major was going to happen.
Jake Van D beats Tyler Wells 4-1. Brock Hardy beats Vance Vombauer 12-10. Wild. And Ridge Lovett beats Drew Roberts 5-zip.
You think Rich Lovett is the best like leg rider in college right now?
Nah, Will Ebert.
Yeah, put some respect in the name.
No, seriously, Ebert's been good. I mean, he beat Jackson. Nah, he's not the best, but I
Well,
mean, he rode Carter pretty
I was
well.
about to say he was actually competitive with Carter. Like Carter was getting frustrated.
He was. He rode him for a decent amount. I mean, I know he got reversed and then pinned, but if you actually watch the match, he rode him for at least I think 40 seconds, which that's not a lot. But
Who
who
else can ride
rides
Carter for 40
Carter?
seconds?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like
I was just thinking about the when Carter did the interview with Bo Nickel the other day, and I sent it to you guys.
I can't even watch that. I didn't
Oh,
even watch
dude.
it. I
And he was
can't.
like, he's like, yeah, I came to Penn State not for the academics. He goes, some people take school pretty seriously here. He goes, I'm here to wrestle. And I was like, things you shouldn't say on camera. Like that's not the exact quote,
They
but
could do like an investigation.
yeah,
Like, does
they
this
could really,
guy actually does his classwork?
yeah, it's
Like,
like, is this guy, like, has he been to class? Is he like even enrolled as a student here?
yeah, NIL
It
will
was just
hide
funny,
anything.
watching him. He's a
Yeah. I couldn't even. I saw like an article. It was the most poorly written article, or maybe Carter's grammar is just terrible because they were trying to quote him and stuff. I
Yeah.
couldn't even follow what the hell the guy was talking about.
He said something about like when he wrestled Nelson Brands, it was like 7 minutes of licking dog poop or something.
God.
And I'm like, I just don't know what you're talking about, but love Carter.
Yeah, yeah, gotta love it. Um, so kind of just looking around the wrestling world at some other upsets. Eddie Ventresca takes another loss to Spencer Moore. How about North Carolina beating Virginia Tech?
Dude, Virginia Tech, something's going on over there. It's spreading. It's not just like at first, it's the upper weights, it's TJ Stewart, and I'm like, okay, he's struggling. But other guys in the team are looking good. And then other guys are starting to struggle as well. And I go, I wonder, maybe some of them are sick. It's that time of year. And then they just take weird losses, you know?
Well, I know that I don't think Virginia Tech had their entire roster
Yeah.
in the lineup. Pulling it up now. Um, but I mean, you don't see Virginia Tech lose
No,
to UNC though. Like that was so you had Spencer Moore beat Eddie Ventresca. I mean, that match right there, had Ventresca won, they would have Virginia Tech would have won the duel. So, you know, kudos there. But McGonigal wasn't in for Virginia Tech. Uh, who else? Caleb Henson wasn't in, so Lachlan McNeil had a tech fall. So I mean, obviously, if Henson's in, he probably wins that match. Obviously, doesn't get teched, but Lennox Wallach takes another loss to Josh Ogunsanya. And then TJ Stewart gets pinned. I mean, you can't get pinned. Like you can lose, but you can't get
he's gotten
pinned.
pinned a few times this season. He's really fallen off.
When do they pull the plug on TJ Stewart, you think?
Probably pretty
Is it
soon.
too late?
Probably pretty soon. If it might be too late already, where they were like, "Hey, we're just riding with him at this point." Um, but again, it's the same kind of
He's
like,
4-7.
yeah,
He lost to Aiden Renault of North Dakota State 9-1. Caleb Uhlenhop of Utah Valley,
just
Dashiell Lamer, 10 zip. Like these aren't top ranked guys he's losing to.
the biggest thing that we talked about, TJ Stewart coming in. And I remember saying, like, he wrestled for Blair, standout high school wrestler, but a lot of guys didn't like him because they said he was lazy and he wasn't disciplined. All the talent in the world. And last year, we're like, oh, maybe he's matured, he's outgrown it. And I feel like he's back in that slump of like, hey, like I can just kind of do what I want to do and get through the season. And I'm good enough that it'll happen, regardless of how much work I put in. And you know, he's seeing he's behind the eight ball. But
Yeah.
um, what are your thoughts on the Spencer Lee news
What's Spencer Lee news?
versus Ono?
Oh, versus Ono. Well,
So
you had some news on Ono.
I, what did I say? That he's going to beat Spencer Lee?
No, that he was in the directory.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay. So for guys that don't know what's going on, Flow is putting together an event in the end of February, I think like the 26th. Don't quote me on that. Um, and there's a few big matches coming up. It seems like it's gonna be like a Team Japan versus Team America kind of thing, except there's some other big names in it. So right now, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce. I'll give it a go. I'll pronounce it to the best of my ability. Um, so if you follow freestyle, hopefully you know the name Masanowski, Masono. Let me see, how is it spelled?
Boo.
Masanowski. Oh no,
Dude can't
yeah,
even pronounce the name.
can't pronounce Japanese names. Not my forte. But U20 world champ, senior world champ. If you follow freestyle, you see how just legit this guy is. I mean, he beat up Marcus Blaze, and that was the first time I was like, "Whoa!" Like Marcus lost at U20s. And then he techs Vito. He has the hardest side of the senior worlds bracket. Beats Yugaev, literally teched his way through worlds. Every match ended in a tech, including teching Vito. Um, and he's going to be wrestling Spencer Lee at I think a catch weight, maybe 59 kilo. So he has to come down a little. Spencer has to come up a little bit. Um, but what's interesting is he made an appearance at a Penn State match, a few of them, and was in a Penn State highlight video that Penn State put out. Like, and then you do a little digging and you see that he's in the Penn State student directory.
No, that's
So,
another Masanosoki
yeah,
Ono.
super common name. Um, so, it says he's a member. It doesn't say he's a student, doesn't say he's a staff. I wonder if he's just there training with the NLWC. And they had him come in, but super interesting there. Penn State going international again, but they've been known to bring in guys like that to train with their program. Probably why Davis is doing so incredibly well this year.
Yeah, okay.
But the match is going to be exciting. I think it's going to be, Spencer Lee loses a close one to Ray Higuchi. Um,
This
my
guy's over here is rooting for Ono.
Yeah,
Come
well,
on.
my just opinion is Ono is better than Higuchi, and I think Lee going up a weight is not going to benefit him. Um, Ono's really good on his feet. Lee has great defense. We've seen that. Both of them have very solid parterre offense and defense. I'm really looking forward to this match, but I think it's going to be a hard day for Spencer Lee. What I'm more excited for, though, is some of the other matchups in this card. Um,
Well, yeah, the Takatani versus
yeah,
David Carr.
I think that's a horrible idea for David Carr. No offense to him. I
I
mean,
do too. I mean, that
Takatani
dude picked
beat
apart
the
Kyle
hell
Dake.
out of Kyle Dake. Beat him in ways I've never seen anyone beat Kyle Dake. I can't imagine David Carr seeing that match and be like, I want a piece of that guy. Um, if you've watched Kyle Dake's Olympic run, um, Takatani beat the brakes
18
off.
points or something.
Yeah, it was insane. Like the most points I've ever seen Kyle Dake give up in his career. I think I think it was the most points he's ever given up in a single match by far.
Hmm.
They said it was more points than he gave up in the last few worlds combined. But so he's wrestling David Carr, and then another one that's rumored is Austin DeSanto versus Austin Gomez. Just as a what I'm going to imagine is the kitchen sink match.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't really care about that one as much.
I think that's gonna be the most fun. I think it's two
Really?
guys that are probably pretty similarly matched up.
Yeah, but neither of them are going to be the guy for
No, no,
USA.
no, but still it's gonna be a lot of fun. Like that's like
Yeah, I
two
guess
guys
so.
that that are high flying, love to, high pace, throw, go crazy, big moves. Two guys that are like borderline insane.
Well, we don't know about Gomez, but
No,
yeah,
Gomez is the man though. I think that's gonna be a really fun match if it happens. Um, but yeah, I'm super excited for that. I think that it's gonna be a tough day for Team USA if, it just seems like Japan is really on the come up. And I'm glad our guys are taking new challenges. It just seems like it's not gonna go in our favor. And if Spencer beats Ono, I think that we see Spencer go up to 61.
we'll see.
We'll see.
Well, there you have it, another week in the books. I mean, there's so much that we didn't even get to, but drop a comment down below. What were your thoughts about this past week in the NCAA wrestling world, in the freestyle news world, in the Ferrari universe? I mean, drop anything down below. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll get your comments, and we'll respond to them down below. So, thanks for watching. As always, we are Cactus Wrestling.
Cactus Wrestling.
Thanks for watching. We are Cactus Wrestling, and we'll see you next time on our next video.